Hey, listeners, get ready to transform your career and finances. In 2025, join us for the Health and Wealth Expo retreat in February and then the Live Expo in May. Save the dates for two powerful experiences that will transform your career, finances, and well being. Mark your calendars now. Welcome to Nurses with Voices. I'm Dr. Lindra, your host and fellow nurse who's traded in burnout for breakthroughs. I'm here to show you how to transform your nursing career into one filled with purpose, reduced stress, and incredible opportunities. Whether you're looking to start your own business, build generational wealth, or simply find a healthier role in nursing, this podcast is for you. Join me to explore practical strategies to overcome burnout, combat bias, and chart new paths in nursing. It's time to reclaim your voice and reimagine your future in healthcare. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of Nurses with Voices. I'm your host, Dr. Lindra, and today I have Casey Green. Casey Green has been a critical care nurse for 10 years, working in adult and pediatric ICUs, emergency departments, and as a critical care ground transport nurse. Casey is also a first year nurse anesthesia resident, and she's certified across multiple critical care specialties and is passionate about patient care, nursing education, and supporting nurses both entering the profession and at the bedside. I am going to go ahead and let Casey introduce herself. First of all, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about your nursing journey from being a nurse for 10 years, the multiple certifications that you have, really being a nurse anesthesia student. So tell us a little bit. I know I just said a mouthful, but welcome to the show, and go ahead and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thank you for having me. So I think when I first became a nurse, I was like, I'm going to be one of those lifers. I want to be in it forever. I thought I was going to work at one hospital. That changed. But I think like what's kept me in nursing in over 10 years is like finding new things to keep me excited about being a nurse. It's so easy to give up being a nurse. Like one thing happens or another thing happens just at the bedside and like what we do, but also just challenges that like you face in nursing and personalities kind of push you away from it. But I've found things like certification and just really being passionate about patient care and helping other people get to where I am, because I didn't have those people, I had to find them. So helping people, like kind of finding those people and meeting them where they are and helping them reach the goals that they want to reach. And finally, like reaching some of my own goals, which was being accepted to nurse anesthesia school and actually starting. And it still feels like a dream every day. It's really hard. And we're on a break right now. So it feels really nice to like actually be on a break. But it's so hard. But it's like every day that I go to class and log in and get another test done, I'm like, okay, I'm 1/12 of the way done to be like a nurse anesthetist. And I just think of all the things that I'm going to do in the future. Whenever I think like this is really hard, is this too hard? Can I not do this? I just think about all the patients that I'm going to affect like later on in my career.
Absolutely. So tell me, so right now you're currently in the CRNA program, and you said you guys are on a break right now. So how long is the program?
Yeah, so I'm currently a first year nurse anesthesia resident. My program, like most others, they either go between 36 months, so some go to 42 months. The middle ground is like 36 to 39 months. So my program's 36 months. Every program doesn't have breaks. I'm lucky enough to go somewhere where we have quarters. So I get to have like a week and a half off between each quarter, and the quarters go 10 weeks each.
Oh, gotcha. That's awesome. I want to just back up a little bit when you mentioned how nursing can be hard and people give up on the profession. What do you feel that you do and you bring to nursing? How do you help uplift the profession with nurses coming into the profession and nurses at the bedside currently?
So I think that nursing is sometimes like we see it as too serious, or we talk about the negatives too much, which there are negatives of nursing. I would be like an over optimist if I just talked about the positives. But I think that there are negatives in nursing, but I feel like the focus is always on like so many negatives and not all the highlighting the positive things about being in the profession, the flexibility to move into different specialties and to do pretty much whatever you want to do to grow in your career, to start out as a bedside nurse, and as you go through your career, explore leadership, education, going on to be an advanced practice nurse across a couple different areas. And I think that people just don't highlight all the exciting parts of nursing that there are, and just being part of the pinnacle of healthcare as a nurse. Like, we're more than just like refreshments and narcotics. We're more than just like somebody's, we're not somebody's maid. We're out making decisions. And, if you take the time to really educate yourself and sit in a specialty that you really like and enjoy, to just grow and grow your knowledge in that. And I think that that's really exciting. So that's like the kinds of things that I like to share on social media. And like, people gatekeep nursing so much, like the things that you can do. And I feel like I just like break the gates down. I'm like, nope, let me tell you about this awesome thing that you can do. And you probably didn't even know you could do this, or you've never had support doing this. Let me support you. So I think that's really the thing. And I really specialize like with nursing students that are having a really difficult time either finding mentorship or just getting through nursing school. Like, they don't see they can't see themselves in the future. And I was always really lucky because I always saw myself where I am right now. Like, people told me it was crazy, but I saw myself with a lot of certs, and I saw myself as a CRNA student and going that path and being able to inspire people. And I saw that vision for myself, and I want other people to see that same vision, like whatever their goal is for themselves.
So I want to talk about 2 points that you made. One, you mentioned your social media, how you use your social media to platform. But before we get there, you mentioned about your certifications. What made you want to, because you have quite a few. So share with us your certifications and what made you want to go for all of them.
So I have 8 active nursing certifications. I have 8 total active, non. They're all active currently. But one thing, I had actually met nurses who were certified when I started as a new graduate nurse, when I first began my career. And I was like, I think that these people are the smartest people that like I know. And they were smart because they didn't tell people how smart they were. They did that through the actions, like at the bedside. When you saw their email signature, you already knew that they had met like the criteria to become certified because they had those letters behind their name. And again, I'm certified critical care, registered nurse, cardiac medicine certification, transport, ground and flight, pediatric and adult emergency, trauma certified registered nurse, and the last one is the neuroscience registered nurse. So to me, it's like you see letters and you think, okay, I know kind of that person, what their background is and what they're specialized in. And to me, the letters like kind of say anything before you enter the room. I think with all the letters, there's people that want to challenge, like, does she really know what she's doing or does she just want letters? And, to me, it's a commitment to like keep that education going because it took a lot to get those certs, but it keeps a lot to keep them updated too. You have to do so many like continuing education credits, especially for 8 nursing certifications. And I think to me, it keeps me in like I always look for CEs that are like the newest thing that's happening to try to keep myself like in like what's the cutting edge, what are we doing, what's new, and not just like this is the same way we've done things. So I think it's made me a lot smarter going through and becoming certified. But it also, I've had patients that are like, what are all those letters? And just see them like they're like, oh, I'm in good hands. So many letters you have. And I think that it just, patients are like, oh, what's all that? Like, you really know you're going to take care of me. So I think it inspires a little more confidence. And it also allows me to feel like I can like speak up more. There's power behind letters, which is sad, but it's true. I feel like I have to fight less when people like see letters. They're like, oh, okay, I'm going to take her opinion more because she's got certs behind her and she can speak on the knowledge that she learned. She just didn't learn it and then dumped it.
Right. So, and you're right. The certifications, it definitely demonstrates and displays expertise, and that's all you need, hands down. You're the expert. you're the go-to person, and that's what you ultimately become. And I like how you said your patients are automatically like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm in good hands. I can relax now. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what it does. So good for you. Good for you. Let's talk about a little bit about your social media. Talk a little bit about that and how you use your platform.
So I have found it really interesting. The LinkedIn like is the biggest platform that I have, and like Instagram and other things are a little bit smaller, but I still they're completely different to me, like what I share and what I talk about. LinkedIn is much more professional and much more uplifting in the profession, especially during COVID. Like everything became negatives of the profession. And like we're kind of in this weird golden age period where people are looking for, how do we keep nurses at the bedside? How do we keep people as nurses? And it's a really great time to share all the positive things about nursing, but also to highlight some of the things that could be fixed and get people talking about them. And not that I lead the conversation in those things, but I think that there's power in adding to a conversation and really just sharing journeys that usually are more in the background. So, like sharing going through CRNA school and applying. I had never seen people, I got rejected from 7 schools. And I had never seen people post while they were applying about, what that feels like. And being relatable to people. Like everybody wants a success story, but people don't see all of the setbacks and the struggles and the things that, the fall downs and gets ups. And the thing that defines you is getting up that 100th time is the thing that like that's the thing that people see. And I think, I have very frank conversations about on LinkedIn about my employer not having bereavement leave when my dad passed away, and what that feels like at 30, and how that impacts people at bedside, even somebody whose parents might have been older and in different stages of their lives, and just things that like the things that make sense that people talk about on their nursing units but nobody says publicly. I'm like that person now. So I'll say the things that people are talking about but don't want to talk about, and support in the ways that people see nursing at the bedside, but they don't think to uplift themselves and talk about it. And just again, not gatekeeping and sharing like my path to school and what it's like to fall down and continuously get back up again.
I like how you have such a positive outlook on nursing, and you should. I was recently asked if I had a grant of $1 billion, what would I do with those funds? And I want to propose that same question to you, especially with you having such a positive and such positive energy with nursing. I want to propose that same question to you. What would you do with that grant?
I think what I would do is spend really like time, some of that money like educating the public and finding the unsung heroes that do their job every day. And everything, I think it's interesting because I think that people think that nursing can be fixed by just like throwing money at people, but it's also the experience, like going through, and how like HGTV has like make over a town, like go to people's break rooms and give them the things like better break rooms. Like I can't give every single nurse like $50,000 more that they deserve to work, but I can't, like when I was a nurse leader, I was like, but I can make this space with that you're basically your second home feel homely. Like you have a coffee pot that works, you have a refrigerator that doesn't smell like hate. Like so really like maybe doing like an HGTV style, like little make over my break room or like make over our locker room and make people that their second home feel more homely and like they have a place in them. And just making, running some advertisements maybe that highlight the positive parts of nursing and like the unsung heroes, because everybody loves a nurse when they've had a nurse. But I still think even after COVID, people have no clue what we do. Like they have no idea. Unless you've been a patient in a hospital, you have no clue what nurses do. And I think a
You
lot
know,
of people talk about what we do, but they have no idea.
yeah. No, even if you've been a patient, I think still a lot of times it's still that there's that gap as to what we do. And to your point, because think about how a lot of times a lot of patients can't really distinguish between the nurse and the tech. right? Or the nurse and the nursing assistant, or, so there is still a huge gap of people who they really don't understand what we do. They call the call bell and they're like, I need a nurse. And you get there and they're like, can you pass me my phone? Yeah. And it's like, you needed the nurse for that, and when you try to educate them, and when you're really taking care of what you really need to take care of, I think there is a huge learning gap with what nursing is. So during COVID, we were very respected, right? I would get thank you for your service, right? And then that quickly change. And so there is definitely a gap. I know, just shifting back to what I mentioned to you, I know you said that sometimes, we can't throw money at everything, but something that I feel that I would want to do with the funds, I would want to do student loan forgiveness, and I would want to do a retirement fund for nurses. Think about the nurses who are working at like 70, right? And like they're working because they have to work.
I made the joke when I started as a nurse. I was like, one of my like longtime colleagues, she retired after like being a nurse for like 45 years. And I was like, oh my gosh, people retire? Like you're retiring? And she was like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know. I just let you just like stop one day, like you're retiring, like you're done with your career. I just let you kind of work till you couldn't anymore. And she was like, I can't. And I was like, I never knew people retired from nursing.
Because there's so many nurses who, I mean, I know I have. I've worked with nurses who are like well into their 70s, like really. And but you get there and sometimes they become like a little nurse ratchety, but you love them. But they're always the loved nurse on the unit. It's like
Oh yeah.
you accept them for who they are, you accept them for what they do. They're always the loved nurse on the unit, even though we know they're nurse ratchety, but you love them anyway. And that's one of the things
Yeah.
that I love about nursing is the bond that you create. One question I do want to ask you before I ask you my last question, you actually met the president's wife, right? You were invited to the White House, or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it started I when I did all the certification things, my mentors were like encouraged me to um, you know, reach out, tell people the impact that they made. And one of the things that I did was write the former President Lee Obama's, the current president, President Obama, President Biden, and Dr. Joe Biden, and Vice President Harris and her husband, just to say, like, thank you so much. It's so great to see. Um, I think indirectly the second gentleman's like helped like my husband, because people always ask him, he's a white man, and people always ask him like, what does it feel like being behind like my coattails, like my coattails? And he's like, I love it. Like I support her, because he's a new nurse, but a longtime paramedic. And just like what that does and like how much Dr. Biden has like inspired my career as an educator and wanting and being very passionate for education. And she kind of like highlighted that. And I'm a community college graduate. So just putting like community college where it's not like this thing where you are a terrible student and you have to go to community college. So I basically wrote all that up, sent it out to people, and we got a card from the current Vice President Kamala Harris and her husband. That was like obviously they read what I said and then responded to it. And then on my birthday, they called and invited me to go to a town hall in Baltimore. And I told my husband at the time, I was like, don't get excited. We're going to be up in the rafters. Like they're just inviting us to this event. Like don't, don't go wild. But I still was like, I'm going to look nice because I'm a child compared to all the other people that are important in this room, except for the mayor of Baltimore. Sorry, Brand Scott. He's the same age as I am. So it's like we're the only non-children in the room. But I was like, okay, we're gonna go. And so when we went, they showed us where our seats were, and I was like, oh, we're like right at the front of the stage. Oh, that's so cool. And then my complete and utter surprise, the First Lady, Dr. Biden, sat down next to me, and that was the surprise of it all, was that she was so moved by what I wrote that she wanted to come and hang out with me at the town hall and just kind of talk about like community college and education and like nursing and how important all of those things were. So it's really cool because we got photo ops with her and we got to meet the president. and like Anderson Cooper. And it was a really cool experience. And we would have gotten to meet Kamala Harris and her husband, but they were in Virginia for another, like they had been gone to a different event. And then when we went to the White House, we were invited to the White House for the Christmas like celebration where we kind of met everybody all over again. And we got like loving waves because it was at the peak of COVID, but they still like invited people through. So we got like waves and like, like we didn't get to take pictures and stuff because we're at a social distance, but we got to like stand and chit chat and stuff. And it was really nice. And then when my dad had passed away 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, they had sent cards, like condolence cards. And I thought that that was like really nice. I was like, even if somebody's just like sending them, like, they didn't know. I didn't write to them to tell them that. So, and when I just finished my master's at Wilmington and we got cards from like congratulating me on graduating like with an education like degree. So it was really it's just been like really nice to like have like somebody, feel like you're like, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm doing the right thing. So it made me feel
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely. And you should. That's amazing. That's amazing. I love it. I love those type of stories. And these are the type of things that people do need to hear, especially when they're going through certain ordeals. And that's why I love that you are such a driving force for inspiration for the field of nursing because to your point, there is a lot of burnout in nursing. And I say that because that's something that I do. One of the things that I always talk about is nurturing nurses from burnout to breakthroughs. And however, I always love when someone's bringing something positive because I always, it's that thing where, okay, well, what are you doing? What are you identifying? Like, what's bringing that positivity? Because to your point, we do need that and the field does need that. And clearly that's what you do. I'm wondering if there's any like political interest in your future at all. Where do you see yourself going with your future? I mean, I know CRNA school is.
Yes, there are. Like I've said to my husband a million times, we have 3 public health nurses that serve, like that have or are serving in the House of Representatives or Senate, and I feel like there's not been nurses at the bedside, and like I'm really interested once school is done and looking at like the local state houses in Illinois. And I said to my husband that I don't know about the Senate, but like maybe House of Representatives is in the distant future, because like nurses do need to like run for positions and speak positive, but also do the things that are uncomfortable and say the things that are uncomfortable, and elbow their way into spaces. Like I always say, like I elbow myself into spaces that traditionally I wouldn't have belonged in if I didn't elbow my way into those spaces. People tell me no, and I'm like, sorry. What do you mean no? I don't know what that means. Like can't. What does that mean? I have no idea. So, and whenever I meet people that say like, oh, well, somebody told me I can't do this. I'm like, well, you can. You just, you just haven't met anybody that's done it before. So, I think what makes people uncomfortable is somebody saying that they can do something that traditionally isn't the way that people did things. Like I finished my master's degree in my first semester of nurse anesthesia school, and the months overlapped each other, but I was determined to finish my master's degree, because I knew that I wanted to teach in the future. So I was doing both at the same time for a month. And I didn't tell anybody because I was like, I want to get it done first. And then people can be like, shame, shame. And I had done the master's to be an educator. Like I know that that's what I want to do in the future. I knew when I applied to CRNA school that I wanted to educate future nurse anesthetists. Like that's what I want to do. So when I was a class away from being done and school started, I was like, okay, like they're going to overlap by a few weeks, but I'm going to get it done because I know that I want to finish. And the people that are in my cohort know, and my faculty advisor. But I basically was like, I will sacrifice I will make my studying more meaningful for school because I want to finish my master's. So I made sure that my papers were done early for my MSN. And my last paper was like 42 pages because it was the capstone paper. But I made sure that, like, there was never a time where one thing was lagging behind. And I was going to say, I finished my first semester with like all A's. So, you know, my first quarter. So it's like, you can do it. One of the people from my anesthesia program said, you can do what you want to do. Like, if you have to work the whole time through, it's not that you can't do it. It's just, what are you going to sacrifice? You know, you started CRNA school. What are you sacrificing to get this goal done? What are you sacrificing? And I think about that all the time as like, I'm like, what am I sacrificing to get to this end goal? And what things, if I really want something, what other thing am I going to give up on the pursuit of this goal? And, you know, to be honest, like, some people are like, oh, well, you know, you're not going to be able to do LinkedIn and be a social media voice and things. And I was like, I mean, but I will. It just means that I can't go to every conference known to man and speak, but I can still speak on my platforms because I'm really passionate about giving people the experience that they're not getting from other people and inspiring other people to share like their journey and what they're doing. So we're just all knowledge sharing and not gatekeeping.
Well, there you have it. I was actually going to say, was there any message that you had for the audience? But I think you just really gave it. So,
Don't give up.
well, thank you so much for joining. Tell people, how can they find you if they wanted to follow you? How can they follow you? Or how can they find you if they wanted to contact you?
So if you want to find me, Critical Care Casey is my Instagram handle. You can find me Casey Green, lots of letters behind. But LinkedIn.com/, Critical Care Casey, that's my LinkedIn page. If you put in my first and last name, it should come up anyway. But, you know, you can search for me. But really, anything that's my social media is usually going to be Critical Care Casey. And, you know, just reach out. That's the first step. Like, no question is dumb. Your journey is not complete unless you want it to be. So reach out if you want to take extra steps. If people told you your goal was dumb or you couldn't do it, like, find me and we'll tell them that it's not once we achieve it.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. All right, guys, until next time, make sure that you stay inspired, stay empowered, and stay educated.